case.
No, yeah, for sure I will. Just getting that your way.
Okay, if you guys can hear me, can you please type something in the comments? I see Sean, so I'm going to add Sean in. Hey, Volta, Catherine, it's Sean Croxton!
What's up, Leah? How's it going?
I am so pumped. Oh my gosh. Hi, everybody. Keep coming on in. Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week. Y'all can see I'm so obsessed with Sean. Y'all see all those books back there? It's like every book nerd's dream. Hello from California. Most of everybody is in Texas. So just saying hello. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's see. We've got about 10 people and they should still be logging in. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sean is just amazing. So just let me, you know how they say, give somebody their flowers while they're here. So I'm just going to go ahead and give Sean his flowers. But before I give him his flowers, I'm going to introduce myself for those of you guys who don't know me. I'm Leah Frazier. I am a 2-time Emmy Award-Winning entrepreneur. I am a CEO of Think 3 Media. We provide creative marketing and communication services to startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. So thank you guys who tuned in to our session yesterday on PR for small businesses. It was amazing. But today I want to introduce to you Sean Croxton, who was introduced to me by a friend of mine who said, you know, if you really want to up your business and you want to stay motivated, you have to listen to his Quote of the Day podcast. This was probably like 3 years ago, Sean, when this happened. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's probably a lie. Probably a little bit longer than that. At that point in time, when he told me to listen to the Quote of the Day, I had just went through a really bad year in business where I literally lost everything. And it was your Finance Fridays. And I don't remember which one it was, who was speaking, but they were like, if you want to make a certain amount of money, write it down and then carry it with you and look at it every single day, and it will kind of manifest itself. So at that point in time, I had poured everything into my business. I didn't know what I was doing. I had lost my car. I was selling everything out of my house to stay afloat. But it was the Quote of the Day show. And listening to that every single day on public transportation, on Dallas Dart, and on the train, that kept me going. So I wanted to hand you your flowers while you're here. And I don't want everybody to be like, oh my God, like I am very well financially off right now. Okay. So I say that it needed to happen, but it was making sure that I tapped into a totally different mindset and saying like, I want to make 50K in 2 months. And I carried it around on a Post-it on the back of my phone on the train with no car and in 2 months, and I put a deadline on it. And I got a contract for PR that equaled the 50K before the deadline that I had on my Post-it. So I just wanted to tell you that story. I've never told you that before because I was like a fangirl.
That's incredible. You know, when people tell me stories like that, I always say this stuff works. You know, the stuff they talk about on the show, the stuff I teach in the class, when you really do it, it works. And so you made a tremendous change in your subconscious mind by seeing that message every single day, and you've attracted to yourself what it was that you wanted. That's fantastic.
So if you guys are not tuned in, and I know you're all startups, you're at different levels, please follow the QOD show. You can go to SeanCroxton.com. I'll put it in the comments in just a minute, but it's changed my life. And so I definitely wanted to bring Sean to you guys as a part of Global Entrepreneurship Week so that you can get jacked up and going. But Sean, I want to talk about your background because you've done a lot, okay? And you give a lot. So tell me, how did you get your start into entrepreneurship originally? You have an incredible journey.
Oh, I mean, to go way, way back, my journey started when I was a child. My father was an entrepreneur, and I was just fascinated with, you know, his ability to go to the swap meet, the Oakland swap meet, on Saturday and Sunday and have this big wad of cash in his back pocket. I was just blown away by that, and that age you're thinking about how much candy you can buy and posters and basketball stuff. But I was also looking at the exchanges of goods. He was selling like butterfly knives and knockoff Guess and Gucci outfits and such at the swap meet, and it was just like seeing him exchange goods that were valuable to others for money was really cool. And so I really got it from him. And from there, as him as my model, I started selling baseball cards. I started, messing around with comic books. I just pretty much did everything I could to be able to earn my own money, whether it be just like picking up cans from off the street and taking them home and just hoarding a bunch of them and taking them to the recycling place one day and just getting money for them. In college, I sold bootleg Tupac CDs around campus. Yeah, that was my thing. And then I became a personal trainer after college. And so I worked for myself as a trainer. I did really well with that. Was pretty much done mentally with it after about 3 years. And then I did it for 8 years, and YouTube started around 2007. And I started the Underground Wellness YouTube channel. It was actually called The Food Dude and The Food Dude TV, but eventually became Underground Wellness. And that's where like the real entrepreneurship began. There were definitely some hiccups in my way in terms of like money mindset and such. I put some limits and some restraints on myself mentally, and we'll probably get to that in a minute. But Underground Wellness was a YouTube channel. It was a podcast as well. I would interview experts whose books I would talk about on YouTube, and I would sell their programs to my email list. I would also create these online summit events. And so we had online summit events where I would interview experts about whether it be thyroid or depression or digestion or real food, whatever it was. And we would turn them into these big online events and make incredible sums of money from them. And then at some point, I just kind of lost my passion for health and wellness. Like I'm still healthy and I'm still well, but I just didn't want to be part of the industry anymore. And I wanted to get into something that I was more into, something that was really doing it for me at the time and still is, which is personal development. And now I have the Quote of the Day show, and now I teach Money Mind Academy, and now I've got a book club that has lots of members in it. And so it's been a really cool journey, ups and downs, of course. And now we're here.
And he is the king of, like, when we talk about multiple streams of income, Sean is the king of that. Like, I just kind of sit back and watch how he like diversifies through, whether it's like you were talking about affiliate partnerships where you're selling someone else's stuff to make money, or let me do a book club that's a membership base where that's something that's passive that continuously comes in. So kudos to you for like really putting it out there. But I want to back up a little bit, because sometimes in the entrepreneurial journey, you have to, and this is the word of the year, and as a journalist, I can't stand using the same word, but I'm going to use it just to pacify everybody, the pivot. Okay, so Sean has obviously made multiple pivots throughout your career. Talk to me about your mindset during that time. Were you fearful to try something new? Were there ways that you held yourself back as you were rebranding? Were you afraid your audience wouldn't follow you? Talk to me about what that looked like for you.
Not at all. I can't do something that I don't like to do. That is just not the way I want to live my life. And so when I got to the end of Underground Wellness, people thought I was crazy because it was a multi-million-dollar business. Like, you're going to walk away from this? Like, you interview people and you go and make these really cool events, and it's work, but it's not really that much work. Like, are you serious? Like, yeah, I'm done. And, one thing about me is, like, when I have an idea and I'm convinced that it's a really good idea and I know it's going to help people, I just really believe that I can do it. I believe that the Quote of the Day show was going to work. I believe that Money Mind Academy was going to work. I remember going to one of those landmark seminar things that they have, landmark education. They have these little seminars. And I remember going to a money seminar, and it was day one. And I'd been to a couple of their seminars before, but this one had people literally standing out in the hallway trying to get in. And I'm going, wow. People are really struggling with money and money mindset. This is a need that people have, not just a need, but a want that they have. And so for me, there really was no fear at all, because I knew that if I built Underground Wellness successfully, all I had to do was implement the same strategies, which is essentially just to give lots of great content, and to every once in a while say, hey guys, I got something for sale, and then give more content. And hey guys, I got something. Here's a book club for you. And that's it. I think we make business more complex than it needs to be. Just provide value, be cool, be nice, get people to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And I think the rest is history, because of course, as humans, we like to buy from people who we feel like we know, like, and trust. And if you can engineer that by just being yourself, somebody there who wants to serve you or serve their audience, I don't think there's a way for you to really fail. Now, I work on the internet, so there's not like a lot of physical products being created. I've tried that before. That's not really my space, but the beauty of the internet is you can just create it. And if it doesn't work, you can just make a quick change to it without needing it to be manufactured. And so I always knew I can do it. And my next idea that I have at some point, I'll be just as confident in that as well.
I'm not going to ignore the pink elephant in the room. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, and there have been businesses that haven't made it. But there's always that phrase that people say is like, if you learned how to make money X way this one time, then if something happens, you'll be able to do it again. You can kind of repeat those same measures. Do you agree with that from your career?
I agree with that. I agree that Steve Harvey was on the show. I want to say it was this Monday or last Monday. And he was talking about COVID specifically. And he said, we have to be willing to adapt. When one door closes, there's another one that's opening. And if we can perceive what's going on from a more creative perspective, and then instead of from a survival perspective, like, how am I going to get through this, looking at our 5 cent circumstances, and actually use our imaginations and shifting our attention to, okay, this is an opportunity to create something new. There are new needs, there are new wants amongst the marketplace. How can we fulfill those? For me, I was actually starting a health coach marketing business as we went into COVID. And people who are in the health coaching space during COVID were like, no, we're good. We're not trying to spend that much money. We're broke already. We don't want to do that. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, let's put that one to the side for a while, and let's keep this money mindset thing going. And so I do, I think that if you have the tools, or if you're willing to learn the tools to create the business that you want to create, you can use those tools to create something new. You don't want to be stuck in a business that just simply isn't working anymore, because you can't force the marketplace to want something. You can't. And so it's up to you to, again, shift your attention and do something new with confidence that it'll work.
I love everything you're saying. It's almost like you kind of have to have like this bird's eye view, like remove yourself from the situation and truly evaluate it as an entrepreneur. Like, what is the marketplace doing? And then how can you wedge yourself into it? Because it's so noisy out there. And I'm sure you see it too, Sean, where everybody and their mom is moving at this like very hurried pace, especially during COVID-19, where it's like, I got to put this out, I got to put that out. And sometimes maybe you just need to focus on that one thing that was working, right?
Thing. Yes, focus on the thing that was working. For me, moving away from money mindset and into health coaches, I was like, no, let's just go back to that one thing that was working. The money mindset thing was really working. I just saw a need, and I have a background in health, of course, for health coaches, and I really wanted to help them. But I'm like, no, let's divided attention very seldom builds greatness. And so I was like, what is that one thing that I know a lot of people want? And when I relaunched Money Mind Academy, people were all for it. I did more sales than I had ever done before. And so we just want to be mindful. We just want to be mindful of what do people want right now. And again, just be confident that you can create that and be willing to start over. You're starting over, but you're starting over from a perspective and a foundation of past experience, and you can use that experience in your new endeavor, but you don't want to keep doing something that is no longer working, not at all. But just real quick, fear can be an MFer. When you're fearful of losing the house and losing all of this stuff, your brain literally goes into a mode where you start to lose that imagination, and you start to lose that ability to make decisions. You start to lose that ability to take action. You literally become frozen, stuck where you are. And so we have to be willing to stand back, as you said, and be able to look at that fear and say, okay, this is not good, but I have a choice as to what to do here. I can stay here and stay stuck and moan and complain about it, or I can use this as an opportunity to look for the door that's opening up and step through that one.
I love that. And I do want to point out that there was this stupid meme going around during COVID-19 where it was like, if you didn't come out of this pandemic with a new book and a YouTube channel and your social media popping and a new business, then you didn't utilize your time wisely. And I just want to say, like you said, just forget all of that. Focus on the thing that works. If you're fearful about something, now is not the time. You just got to put it out there. Yes, Melissa, it was too much pressure, and I don't know who created that meme, but when I find them, it's a wrap. Okay. But I do want to go into the money mindset and talk about that a little bit. Sean, I've taken the academy. I actually came out to San Diego when we did our mastermind. Now I have like lifelong friends. Jody and I were on a DM yesterday. But talk a little bit about the money mindset. Like, what does that encapsulate and how does that pertain to your work with entrepreneurs?
Well, to be an entrepreneur, you have to create a business. And to have a business, you got to turn a profit. That's the whole point. And I'll just talk about my story a little bit was, with Underground Wellness, I had 30, 40,000 YouTube subscribers, but at the same time, I was barely making any money. And, when I really got down to thinking about it with some help from others and some books and some interviews and such that I listened to, there were some major blocks around the money side of things. I didn't really value earning, saving, and investing money at the time. I had some very limiting beliefs around money that I had acquired as a child that hadn't been examined. I'll just give you one, for example. When we're kids, or some of us are kids, we're taught this is who we are and this is who they are. We are the regular common people. Those are the rich people. And the rich people over there, those people are miserable. They're greedy. They want nothing to do with us, which creates, from a child's perspective, a meaning and an interpretation and a belief that if you're going to get rich, you're going to be a miserable, greedy person. And for a lot of people, beliefs similar to those, if not that same belief, go unexamined for a lot of people for the rest of their lives. And so where I'm doing this Underground Wellness thing, and I'm literally shaking when I'm asking somebody for money. I could do the entire coaching call or the discovery call with them, but when it gets to the money, I'm like, yeah, it's going, and even like making videos, I might pitch a product and I would cut it out. I would edit it out because I just didn't feel confident in asking people for money and receiving money as well. But I had this big realization one day. I was like, oh my God, I'm not making any money. I'm sabotaging myself because I don't want to become one of them. Oh, and if I become one of them, then the people who taught me about this us versus them thing, they're no longer going to like me. They're no longer going to love me because I'm no longer one of us. I'm one of them now. And that really, really stops a lot of people from making money in their businesses. And it's completely subconscious for a lot of them. So what we do in Money Mind Academy is we look at like, what do you value? But also, what do you believe about money itself? What do you believe about people with money? And also, how worthy and deserving do you feel about yourself when it comes to money? If you don't feel worthy and deserving of being financially abundant, you'll never be financially abundant. We got to do some work on your self-esteem. We got to do some work on your self-image because, if this is your self-image, this is your area of the possible. This is how you see yourself. And a profit in your business or financial abundance is outside of that rectangle, then you're never going to get it because it doesn't match who you are. And so that's what Money Mind Academy does. It helps people to identify those limiting beliefs that may be subconscious at the time, helps them to change the meaning of them or to look at them and go, oh my God, that really doesn't make any sense. All rich people are greedy? Really? All of them? All rich people? Every single one of them, guys? Oh no, not all rich. Okay, cool. Now we've made a crack in that one. You know what I'm saying? Where we can start to destroy and break that one down and just move on from it and change that to something that's more powerful for you. But I'm doing a lot of work recently on the self-worth and the self-esteem and the self-image part and putting more of that into the course because people really need a lot of help with that.
Yeah, especially, and I'm just going to speak from being a woman. I think sometimes, we get into these boardrooms and it gets to that part where it's like, okay, well, how much is it? And it's that inner shaking going on where you're like, you know what you're worth, but to say it and not to flinch or to say it confidently, sometimes, if you haven't worked on that, there is that doubt, and you have to be so confident in what you're saying to attract it. Because if you don't believe it, then why should they themselves, right? And I feel we really struggle with that. I have friends that are CEOs where it comes to that part, that's where everything kind of falls apart internally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they need to do some work on their self-image, like using visualization, setting goals and such, and actually becoming the person who has achieved that goal. Like you literally have to, and a lot of people have a hard time with this. When you set a goal and you're growing to achieve it, you have to accept the fact that you are going to become a fully different person. And I think people have a very, very challenging time with that because, the subconscious mind, the ego, the brain really, really prefers what's familiar. Anything that's unknown, your brain's like, no, we don't want to do that because we just want you to survive. We just want you to get by. Just stay where you're at right now because going outside of that box is scary. You're not protected anymore. You can no longer predict what's going to happen. And so being okay with the fact that you are going to change, you're no longer going to be the same person. There's going to be characteristics about you that change for the better, that there's going to be people who you no longer jibe with, energetically that you used to, and you're going to meet new friends. Like we have to be able to, we have to be able to embrace the change. We have to be able to embrace that feeling of uncertainty. We have to be willing to take risks as well. But, one of the reasons why we don't take these risks is because a lot of us have this pathological critic, this self-talk in our brains that says, you're a failure, you're this, you're that, you're the other. And we have these experiences of the past, which are the reasons why we have those thoughts in our brains. And we have these emotions that we felt with those past experiences. It hurts to fail. And what we do for the rest of our lives is we protect ourselves from not feeling again.
Yeah.
And so we quit, or we don't even try, or we reduce our prices so we don't have to get rejected, so we don't have to feel the pain of that again. Yeah, we're constantly trying to protect ourselves from feeling uncomfortable emotions, where we don't realize that the path to getting to where you want to go personally as well as in your business is a path of failure and rejection. And that path, instead of making the failure and rejection part of or about you, I should say, we just have to admit to the fact and accept the fact that it is part of the journey, and every single successful person who's ever achieved anything in this world has gone through it as well.
And I'll admit, I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get back in, Sean. I keep signing up to go through the academy over and over again because I feel like it's lifelong work, especially like you said, if this mindset has been embedded in you psychologically since you're a child, you can't just work on it for 3 or 4 months and think that that's going to go away. Because I know even after taking your class, I introduced a course, and after working on the money mindset, I became more hyper aware. When those things would come up, it's almost like I would have to stop it and say, nope, limiting belief. We're going to go in this direction, right? And when I did my first course and I had to build in all the sales funnels and the upsells towards the end, so I gave this beautiful webinar, and you just know that part is coming where you're about to sell. And I felt myself trying to rush through the 20 slides that were building up into this sale. And it was because of that limited belief of they're not going to buy this right now, or they can't afford it, or it's priced too high. And I'm having this conversation with myself, but knowing that I'm limiting myself, when I did it, I said, okay, Leah, just slow down. And literally everybody purchased. And I was like, I did all of this, and what I had to offer was valuable, and people bought it. I'm telling myself that they wouldn't. Wow. So I mean, can you talk about the continuous work with this type of mindset and what people need to put in?
Exactly what you said. Well, by the way, like everybody bought it. That is amazing because when you were talking about that, I was going, if you sell something in a webinar format, 90 to 95% of people are going to say no.
Oh no, they
You know what
pop
I'm saying?
in. When I tell you, I was getting all of these notifications like ding, 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 and
Yeah.
my mind was blown, and I was trying not to
Hmm. Yeah.
act brand new.
Yeah, I mean, for me, whenever I do something like that, a webinar or some type of pitch, I always am under the assumption that 90 to 95% of them are going to say no. And I think that's a realistic way to look at it based on like average statistics when it comes to internet marketing. So kudos to you for like doing that. That's huge. Um, you were talking about, I'm sorry, what was your question before?
As far as like reworking the money mindset, like how often, I mean, it's a lifelong journey, yes, but I don't think enough people put this into like a daily practice for personal development.
Yeah, it is a lifelong process because, you know, a lot of these beliefs and distortions that you have around money, you learned before you can even talk. They're deep. If this is the cup of your brain, these limiting beliefs are right down there at the bottom. And it takes a lot of time and effort to be able to turn down the power on those neural networks that have been formed in your brain a long time ago, because your beliefs are literally physically wired into your brain. And if you don't remain aware, if you don't remain on guard of these beliefs, because they really never fully go away, you can turn down the volume considerably and then turn up the volume on something that's replaced it, but it's always there, just kind of ready to turn on again. And so if you don't stay aware of the way you're thinking, the way you're reacting, the results that you're getting, you can very easily start to swing back the other way. And so it is lifelong work. I mean, every once in a while I catch myself, it's every once in a long, long while, but I catch myself maybe comparing myself to somebody else and I go, Sean, stop doing it. I'm saying you got to take that neural pathway, that connection, and literally unplug it and switch your attention to something else. And so I don't think anybody is ever fully cured from something that they're almost born with to a certain extent, because we get these beliefs so early. So it is ongoing work. I always tell my students, you've had these beliefs for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70 years. You're not going to get rid of them overnight. It is ongoing work.
Just for some actionable items, I know we talked about visualization, so maybe you can go into a little bit about what that practice is, but what are some other things that people can implement that can assist with kind of unwinding the money mindset outside of, obviously, I'm going to talk about your course a little bit, but what are some things outside of visualization that people can do?
Number one is to go back and consider your childhood. Consider what you saw, what you heard about money. Also, what did your parents, like, how was your parents' behavior when it came to money? For example, did your parents get money and as soon as they got it, they blew it? Was there a lot of like ups and downs financially? Mom or dad would get a bunch of money, you guys would be good, and then they would lose it all and would come back up. Or even think about like, did your parents argue over money? And what interpretation, what meaning did you give that from a perspective of a 5-year-old? I mean, you're 5 years old, you still believe in Santa, you still believe in the tooth fairy. You're a very imaginative person at that time, a child at that time. And so did you make that mean that money makes parents fight? Did you eventually maybe make it mean that money makes parents get divorced? Did one of your parents, were they always at work trying to make money? And so how did that make you feel? And also what did you make it mean? Did you make it mean that money takes parents away from their children? Did your mother or your father play the lottery every Tuesday? Did you make it mean that earning or winning the lottery is the only way that people like us can ever make it financially? Okay. Did you in school or did you in church learn that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven?
That's why I know we in the Bible Belt. Don't do it.
well, here's the thing though. I mean, they didn't have sewing needles in biblical times. So what was that needle? What did it really mean? Right? And you can just go on Google and find out what the eye of the needle means, and it makes that whole passage mean something completely different. But there's a lot of people who make that mean that if I make money and become rich, then I am going to not be able to go to heaven. And so what is the meaning that you gave these experiences that you had as a child? And so I think that's one of the most important things you can do. Number two is to find out what it is that you value, like what's important to you. I love how Dr. DeMartini teaches this, and I don't really love using the word values. I'm trying to think of a different term to use for this, but it's essentially like what's important to you. What do you love? I love to read. I love to write. I love basketball. I love health and fitness. I love real food, right? Things like that. So figure out what it is that you value. There's a great book by Dr. John DeMartini called The Values Factor, where you can find out what it is that you value. And so for me, earning more income and having an abundant life benefits my values because now I can buy any book that I want. I got 3 books coming today from Amazon. I'm surrounded by 1,000 books in my home right now. I have the time to read. I have the time to write now. So money has been able to buy me time freedom. I can buy any healthy food that I want to consume. If I want to get a personal trainer or somebody to come to the house and work me out, I can afford that. So how can having more money enhance the things that you already love? And what your brain does, it goes, oh, I'm not going to resist as much as I was before because I'm just going to get more cool stuff that I already like. What's familiar, it's only just going to go to a whole new level. We're going to have more of that. Well, let's do that. And so identifying the beliefs, identifying your values and attaching them or connecting them to your goal of making more money or becoming more abundant. And then, as you said, visualization is huge. And just real quick, I want to give the analogy, the little story I like to give when I talk about self-image because it seems to connect with people. I went up to Trader Joe's one day, right across the freeway at SDSU, San Diego State University. And it was my lucky day. I managed to get a parking spot maybe 30 feet away from the door. Usually it's a really busy area. That's like a lucky day. I go in, I get all my stuff, and I've got my shopping bags in my shopping cart, and I'm wheeling my shopping cart, pushing it towards my car. And all of a sudden, the cart stops. Wheels lock up. And what do we do when the wheels lock up on the cart? We push that thing again. You don't know why we do that, right? Like, oh, this thing moves. It's like we're just automatically gonna move. And so, but my car was 20 feet away from me. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna grab my bags out of the cart and I walked them to my car, loaded it up, and I went home, right? Fairly uneventful story. But why am I telling you this? It's because that's how your self-image works. And so there was a perimeter that had been set on that cart. And once you got to that perimeter, it stopped. And for the cart itself, it was right before the curb because it's a busy street. And they didn't want this cart going into the curb. Well, that's what we do to ourselves with our goals. We have a goal that's out here, out in the streets, or maybe 20 feet away, 30 feet away, and we set that goal. But if our self-image is set at this perimeter and we start moving toward this goal, we lock up as soon as we hit the outer boundaries, the outer limits of that area of what's possible for ourselves. And so the self-image is essentially the way that we see ourselves. Do you see yourself as worthy or unworthy? Do you see yourself as capable or uncapable? Do you see yourself as deserving or undeserving, resourceful or resourceful? Like, how do you see yourself? Because the way you see yourself sets that boundary. Now, here's the thing about how the brain works. The brain can't tell the difference between a real experience that we're having right now versus something that's been vividly imagined. So when you imagine yourself to be, not just to be, but also to feel like the person who you want to become, then your brain actually sees that as a real experience and starts to lay down brand new neural pathways that will eventually replace the old pathways or turn them down. So you literally become a brand new person by way of visualization. But the key is, though, is that you want to feel. You want to feel like you're going to feel when you are that person, whether that be confident or grateful or joyful or more loving, whatever it is. You want to bring that feeling into the visualization. Now, if you do this twice a day for 10 minutes, first thing in the morning and right before bed, because your brain waves are in an alpha state. And when your brain waves are in an alpha state, it literally opens up a bridge between your conscious and your subconscious mind where you can reprogram it. And so again, morning, evening, sit your butt down, 10 minutes a piece and visualize yourself being the person who you want to be. And if you do that for 30 to 60 days, you will become a brand new person. It's free. There's no investment. You don't got to go to a class for it. None of that. You become a brand new person. When you become a brand new person, you tend to get into action and you attract and you create what belongs to the version of you that you're becoming. It's really cool.
I think that's like super dope. And I didn't do that as much until I met you. And then in the book club, we read a book. Maybe you can remind me, Sean, what the name of it is. It's brown and like that helps. But it's not that long of a book, but it talks about visualization. And it's almost the wording, the way it read, it was very old school. So I literally had to read paragraphs over and over again. It was the second book we did once you launched the club. I can't remember it.
Was it Neville, The Power of Awareness, or was it like that Troward book?
I don't think it was The Power of Awareness, but I know
okay. If it was a brown book, then it was probably, was it really hard?
Yes, I had to read the same paragraph like 3 times.
Yeah, you know what? That was a mistake. I shouldn't have brought that book in. But that was the Edinburgh Lectures on Mental Science. But if you want to read a phenomenal book about visualization and changing your self-image, just the book we're reading now in the book club. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Okay. Can you say that one more time?
Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell
Gotcha.
Maltz.
All right.
Yeah, it's a classic. 30 million copies sold. It's a real classic.
And I think, I know it's going to be foreign to a lot of people. It definitely was foreign to me. There were some other things that, Sean, you recommended that we do to help with like our mindset. So it was like, okay, maybe a goal for you is to, you know, you want to make enough money to have a better car. So what car is that? For me, it was like, I want a Range Rover. I don't know why. That's just Leah's goal. And literally, as I'm visualizing all these things that I wanted in my life, some material, some not material, the moment I stepped out, I saw Range Rovers everywhere. I was parking next to them. They were parked in front of me. I would come back out to my car and they were just everywhere. And it was something, I guess, that had woken up in the subconscious from visualizing that and actually placing myself in that medium where it was all around me. So the same thing was like, abundance is all around me. Range Rovers are all around me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we are wired for goal setting. You know, we want to be moving toward a goal. Like, I don't think people can be happy without having a goal. And when you set a goal, you see your life through the filter of that goal. So when you didn't want a Range Rover, when you didn't admit that you wanted a Range Rover, your brain just didn't really see any reason to look for Range Rovers. But now that you've set a goal, you literally see Range Rovers all over the place. The Range Rovers were actually already there. But since you changed, you put a new input into what's called your intention center, which is essentially your internal GPS. You put a Range Rover into your GPS and your brain just says, okay, now I can shift my attention and start to show Leah the thing that she wants. And I'm going to show her opportunities to get it as well. But when you don't have that goal punched into your GPS, you just end up driving your car in circles all over the place. And there's no scenery at all. You're just going and going. But when you punch something in there, the scenery changes and you have more direction with the subconscious mind and more direction with your actions. But you need to have a goal. And just, I want to be specific because we're talking with entrepreneurs, or this applies to anyone, but we don't want to have a kind of a broad goal. We need to have a specific goal. It cannot be more money, more business. You have to make it measurable. If you made $50,000 this past year, if you make a goal of making more money, $50,001 is more money. And your brain will set you on the course for that. So you really want to be specific. If you want to make $100,000, I am so happy and grateful now that I have earned $100,000 by December 31st, 2021. We have to have a very specific goal. Also, why? Because I want my children to have every single thing that they want, blah, 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 blah. There's got to mean something. There has to be a big reason for it, because if you don't have a big reason for it, it's very likely that you have more rewards for failing. And a lot of people don't understand that concept, but there are a lot of rewards for failing in your business or not even trying. If you fail in your business and it never gets big enough, you don't have to deal with criticism, right? So you keep yourself small. Maybe you don't want to outshine somebody. Maybe your brother or your sister is the successful one. And so one of the rewards is you never have to make them feel uncomfortable. You don't have to have that awkward experience. And so a lot of people have more rewards for not even trying or for failing than they actually have reasons for winning. So you want to make sure like you really have big reasons for doing what you want to do, because if you don't, that motivation goes, and those rewards for failing are so big that you'll stop yourself every time. Why? Because those are painful and you're trying to avoid the pain of those things happening. The brain would rather avoid pain than move toward pleasure and purpose. And so your brain's like, this business gets too big, you're gonna have to deal with criticism, reviews, newspaper articles, all these haters talking about you. Like, that's the reality. We're wired to hate on each other. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You're never gonna get past that. But you gotta make that thing small by having reasons for winning that are so big that that looks way cooler than avoiding the pain that I've been trying to, not really experience in my life.
I love that. And as you kind of hit on that, I want to take just a short little turn, because your podcast is the reason why so many of us find you, work with you. You just reached over 1,000 episodes, which is just pure insanity. If anybody has a podcast, to know, to reach that number and to be consistent in that is just, it takes an extreme amount of discipline. So can you tell me your why? I mean, you already had a million things going on, Sean. Why would you just add it to your plate? So what's your why behind the podcast?
I have always just been somebody who wants to help people. I want to help people live better lives. Just really that simple. I want to help people live better lives. I want people to know the stuff that I know, because when you know it, everything changes for you. I don't like to see people not moving toward their potential. I see humans as unlimited with no boundaries, no limits at all. We've placed so many on ourselves, from usually parenting, unfortunately, the way that we were raised. I want people to break out of that. It's almost like I know this secret code to changing your life. And I think it's my responsibility as somebody who knows that to be able to sprinkle a little bit on them in 12 minutes or less every single day, Monday through Friday, right? And the quote of the day show is such a simple idea. I mean, most podcasts, you ever heard of the book Blue Ocean Strategy?
I have that. It's amazing. Yes.
Right. And you look at other businesses and what they're doing, and there's so much competition in the way that they're doing it. Well, how can I do it different and take me out of those bloody waters into something more blue? And for me, it was like, podcasts are long, they're an hour, they're an hour and a half. People have a hard time sitting through the whole thing in one sitting, right? With the quote of the day show, I was like, there's no excuse to not listen to the show. It's 12 minutes or less. It's habitual, so it's Monday through Friday. So people, they want to listen. It becomes part of their routine. And just to give you some background on how I got the idea, I was driving down the 5 freeway from the Bay Area maybe 7 years ago now, and I was listening to the one of the comedy channels on Sirius XM radio, and they play these little snippets of comedy talks. And I was thinking to myself, I would listen to this channel all day if it was just motivational talks. And I kind of put the idea to the side for a while because I was doing underground wellness. But a few years later, when I had the opportunity, I was like, that idea from a couple of years ago, let's do that. And to be honest with you, Leah, I knew it was going to be a big deal. I knew it was going to get a lot of listeners. And the thing is, it only takes me 3-4 hours a week, if that. It's not like it's a hard podcast to do. I recorded all the intros for next week's episodes this morning in about 15 minutes. And also I get to watch all of these motivational talks and learn as I go through it. So it's pretty cool.
The crazy thing is I feel like you were almost well ahead, just like any innovative person, before your time, right? Because we all have these very short attention spans, which I think are getting even shorter and shorter and shorter, which is why, like, on social media, TikTok does so well, right? Instagram Reels, because I only have to pay attention to you for 15 seconds, maybe a minute. So to deliver to me a medium where, in my case, when I was really heavy on listening to your show, was my maybe 10-minute or 15-minute train ride from the house to my office. You gave me what I needed. It was short, boom. I did it at the beginning of the day and I could go on about the rest of my day and I'm energized, I'm jacked up, boom, come back tomorrow for the same thing. It wasn't a 30-minute podcast where I was like, oh crap, I got to go finish that later. I think you were well ahead of your time. And so that was pretty awesome. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Brandy's comment real quick. I wasn't saying like spoil your kids by any means. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the idea I was trying.
They're trying to give you kids, Sean. They were like, if you want to spoil them, you can have them. Send them to California.
That's not what I mean. But I mean, I think all kids deep down want a really good education. If you're sending your kids to a school because that's the only school you can afford, when you would rather send them to the other school that might cost some money, having the amount of money that you want, the abundance that you want, gives you that option is what I was meaning by that.
Well, I'm going to move into Q&A because I don't want to eat at their time. So if you guys have questions, I'm going to start with Janelle's question. Please put it into the chat box for Sean. I'm telling y'all, I'm not going to get this opportunity much to talk to somebody or to really have his attention. He's super busy. So put it in the chat box and I'll get it to Sean. But Janelle Alvarado, I'm so sorry, CEO of Retail Boss Inc. wants to know, how do you move your followers through a funnel to get them to become paid members when you provide free information?
I get them to go to my website. They get a free ebook called The Money Mind Reset, which will be changing in a couple of weeks to Money Mindset Made Simple, which is a new book that I wrote. That gets them onto the email list. And honestly, I don't even have a funnel after that. I just keep delivering phenomenal emails to them. People who are on my newsletter list, they just love reading my emails. I don't send filler emails or unnecessary emails to my list. Like if I'm going to write something, it's going to be really good. And I think they appreciate that. We have like a 25% open rate, which is outstanding for a list of that size. And whenever, like I don't have products to buy on my site. What I do is I use the podcast to promote launches. And so every quarter I launch Money Mind Academy. So there's some build up every quarter, then I do the webinar and then people buy it. And then we do it again 3 months later. And then maybe every 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be starting a new book in the book club. And I will let my subscribers know that we have signups are open for book club via the podcast, via the newsletter, via social media as well. And then they go and sign up for it. And so my business is a little bit different. It's more about launches instead of products on the site. It'll probably change at some point, but I really like the live experiences, teaching my students live on Zoom. I've never actually recorded a course that's available on my site. I think the community aspect of teaching the course live on Zoom really helps the students in terms of getting results because they have that support and community along with it. And they get to see each other every Tuesday and every Friday, get to interact with each other. And so that's my model. It's not a funnel to a recorded course or a physical product. It's just launches. Thanks for the question.
As far as podcasting goes, it seems like, do you feel like it's oversaturated or it's a little bit harder to get one up and going now because so many people are launching podcasts and apps like Anchor have made it so simple, like, you can do it from your phone? Or what are your thoughts on that? If anybody here in the chat box is like, hey, I want that same approach, how hard is this to do?
I think now it's probably a little bit harder than it was before because there are so many people involved. I wouldn't stop because it's saturated, because I don't think anything's ever really saturated. I mean, I tell people, if you think something's saturated, go to the bread aisle in your supermarket and see how many different companies are selling bread. It's like half the aisle there. So there's always going to be space and room for others to come in. Here's what separates a good podcast that's going to really stand out from other podcasts that don't. It's just the quality of your content. So back in the day, when I was interviewing people on Underground Wellness Radio, as well as the Sean Croxton sessions after that, I was known for being a phenomenal interviewer. People would say all the time, oh my God, you're the best interviewer I've ever heard. And this isn't just from listeners, this is also from my guests who would be like, oh my God, like that's the best interview I've ever given. Like you did so much research. Like that is, wow, I can't believe you put all this work into it. And I think that's what separated me from all the others, because all of the others didn't read the books. All the others just they fired off very vanilla questions that didn't really go anywhere. The others tend to ask questions and it's almost like they're not even listening. There's just like 10 questions in front of them. They ask, there's no follow-up, and then they go to something else, no follow-up. I was obsessive about preparation. And I think when you're obsessive about preparation, number one is, platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify will say, oh, such and such just submitted a brand new podcast. We're going to check it out, see what it's about, see if we'll feature this because we want to feature good new content. Oh, we do like this one. This is a really good podcast. So some of these podcast platforms will actually feature your podcast from day one if you're really good. Also, I think that when you do a really good job for the person who you're interviewing, if you decide to do an interview podcast and that person has a good following, I would never ask my interviewee to share the episode. They would always want to share it. They would ask me. They'd be like, oh my God, that was so good. I got to get that out to my people. I want to tweet it out. And so when you can be exceptional with your craft, I don't think there's any way to fail. I think you're always going to stand out. And if you're going to do a podcast, just one more thing, and you want to do interviews, study great interviewers. Howard Stern, Barbara Walters. I know he got into some trouble, but Charlie Rose, phenomenal interviewers. Oprah Winfrey, phenomenal interviewer. Like study their stuff, study their patterns, where they start, what's in the middle, what is the goal. A lot of times the goal is not to sell the product. The goal is to get the audience member to feel like they know, like, and trust the person being interviewed. And I've sold a lot of books and a lot of programs for people by not really focusing so much on the product, but focusing more on the person in the interview.
I love that you said that because I'm a huge fan of Brendan Burchard, and he says the same thing. Like, look, I'm just giving you content, whether you buy anything from me at the end of the day, I'm going to have plenty of people that do that. I'm here to serve. And so I like that you have that mindset because a lot of people don't. They go into podcasting thinking that it's going to be the ultimate moneymaker. And that's really hard to do. Especially if, you don't have the audience built up. Like that's something that comes over time.
Yeah, you want to build your audience over time. And we just have to just basic human behavior though. It's like you watch TV shows that are good. Once the TV show starts to suck, you stop watching it. And so you just want to make sure that your podcast is good every single week. You do the best you can, because as soon as you have 2 or 3 episodes that just aren't very good, people are going to tune out and there's a lot of other choices. So just make sure your stuff is really good. Also, I recommend if you're going to start a podcast, go to Red Circle. RedCircle.com is a free hosting service. And they make your life a lot easier because they actually find sponsors for your podcast. You don't have to do it on your own, which is beautiful. And they've sent a few sponsors my way. It's very easy money. Like you read an ad for 1 minute, if it's a product that you really like, and just money comes. It's
awesome. Just 2 questions before we close out. The first one from Brandy, who wants to give you her kids. She wants to know, what's next for you, Sean?
What's next for me is, that's a really good question. I'm going to do a huge launch for Money Mind Academy in January. I'm actually thinking about going to law school and getting into politics at some point. So,
lawyer club.
Do you want to go to law school?
I've already been. I'm a lawyer. I just thought I don't talk about it for branding purposes, but I'm a lawyer. Yes.
Okay, I did not know that. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to law school, but I'm feeling very compelled to study like constitutional law and maybe get into politics, some point later in my 40s. But so that's what I think is next. But also I may change my mind and something else may unfold for me. We'll just kind of see.
Or you could be like me and become an attorney and say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then go a different direction. At least you always have something to fall back on.
Right. Hey, you never know what's going to happen, how life's going to unfold. I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. So we'll just see.
Awesome. And then my absolute favorite question, Janelle took it from me, and I'm going to actually expand on this question. So she says, any book recommendations on this? I'm assuming she meant podcasting, but I want to expand that to ask you, what are your top 3 book recommendations for entrepreneurship overall? I know that's hard, Sean, because you got like 50 million.
I thought about this today. I've got 3. One of them I'm kind of afraid to tell you, but I'm just going to say it anyway. So number 1 is Life Unlocked by Serene Pillay. Life Unlocked by Serene Pillay. It changed my life because I got to understand that the fears I was dealing with as an entrepreneur were in my brain. They were literally wired into my brain. So I can stop taking these things personally. I can step back and be like, this is how my brain is wired, and here's how I can change it. And I think it's chapter number 3 on the fear of success. When you read that, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I did not know I had all these fears of being successful. I just did not know. And I remember just like checking them off one at a time as I was going through that chapter. So that's huge. Number 2, I already mentioned, which is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Because again, if success in your business is out here and here is your self-image, you're never going to have it. You have to change your self-image. It's just, and the other one I know is going to piss half the people off in here, but it is what it is. Donald Trump's book, Never Give Up, is a phenomenal book for entrepreneurs because it tells stories about his journey through entrepreneurship and like trying to buy a building for 10 years and deals that take 3 years to do and all of these things that would come up where he just never gave up and kept on going. So whether you like him or not, it's a phenomenal business for anybody or book for anybody who's an entrepreneur, because I think that is the backbone and foundation of being an entrepreneur is never giving up, never giving, no matter what happens, because you never know if you're going to be 3 feet from gold. And so keep going, because at some point it pays off and you have all the success.
Awesome. For Life Unlocked and Psycho-Cybernetics, Carlene wants to know if you can repeat the authors of those books, please.
Dr. Serene Pillay, S as in Sean, R, I, N as in Nancy, I, Pillay, Pillay. If you look up Life Unlocked on Amazon search, it's probably the only one to come up. It's fear is also in the subtitle. And then Psycho-Cybernetics is Maxwell Maltz. You got the
okay.
there. Maltz is MALTZ and then Never Give Up.
Awesome. Sean, lastly, before we go, when is the next Money Minds Academy that's coming up?
Well, I'm going to do a 4-part Money Mind Masterclass starting on January 3rd, I believe. And so it'll be a 2-week event, free, that will lead into the actual course. And so it starts on January 5th. And so January 5th, like if you go to my website, seancroxton.com, sign up on my email list, then you'll be the first to know when that's all.
And right in time for the new year, for everybody that does the resolutions and new year, new me, and y'all know how it goes. New year, new mind with your money. And if you guys will email me, Leah@think3media.com, if you are interested in attending Sean's Money Mind Academy. My company, Think3 Media, will be sponsoring a business to attend because I believe so heavily in what Sean's doing and how it's changed my life and my business's life that I want you guys to have access to it. So I will put my email in the chat. If you will email me, I will put you into my drawing to attend that January course, and I will be paying for it on your behalf. So, Sean, I know they can catch up with you online. Are you active on social media? Because I feel like I tag you. You know, you don't really be resharing my stuff. Fine. Stories up, but you know.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm active on Instagram at Sean Croxton. I do a couple lives every week, and I have these random thoughts that I put into my image posts, and I do stories almost every day. I have my hot tub thoughts in the evening, usually about politics and such. I get on people's nerves, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Janelle says, can we get a quote of the day to wrap it up? Great.
You know what? Let's do one that's actually going to be next week, and then I gotta roll. Let's see here. Open recent QODs. Lady Gaga is next Monday. I think this is so important. It's your right to choose what you do and don't do. And you know what she means by that is, you know, if you're doing stuff that doesn't make you happy, like for me, it's returning email. It doesn't make me happy at all. Have somebody else do it, or exercise your right to say no.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sean, for your time. Follow him at SeanCroxton.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to Global Entrepreneurship Week Fort Worth for allowing me to have Sean here, and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.